Hello, everyone, and welcome to Just Human. I am your host, Jay Boykin. And in this space, we talk about many different topics, but all related to our shared humanity. And this episode today, we are bringing back someone who was here with us a while back. So, Tyler Herman. And if you recall, Tyler is an ultra marathon runner, former combat Marine. Sorry, I keep messing up by saying former,
Yeah,
but
no, farmer's right. Yeah, you're right.
o-
You're accurate.
okay.
Yep.
Well, but anyway, Tyler is back with us, and Tyler ran a race back in July for it's called the OURAY 100. It was a 102.1 mile race. But unfortunately, Tyler was unable to finish that race due to injuries. First of all, Tyler, welcome back to the show. And it's good to see you again, buddy. And I have to ask, how are you doing? Are you all
Yeah.
recovered?
Yeah, great question. And thanks for having me back. We had such a good time last time and being back. And obviously, the basis of today's conversation is actually a really healthy one, but it's hard, right? Like you said, yeah, the race was tough. It was tough in a way that you can't predict. It's dubbed in the community one of the most difficult races in the world. And I remember the first time I got to my crew, at mile 27, and I'm going to get to your question here, but first words out of my mouth were, now I understand why this is considered one of the hardest races in the world. And so,
Wow.
yeah, I'm doing good right now, doing really, really good. And we've got some really exciting things that have come from this. We call it a DNF, a did not finish. Even
Okay.
if it's medical or other, it's still classified as a DNF. It's a big red banner in my profile, but we're doing good, Jay. We're doing good.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're doing well, and we're going to get into what you've got coming up because you're going back up to Ouray here soon. But Tyler, you're running this race, and what was the moment that you began to realize that something wasn't right?
Yeah, it's a fair question. And I think I got to break it into two parts because your listeners don't maybe necessarily care so much about the medical failure because you can't really control that. Although you can maybe to a degree, but there was a point before the medical failure where if I'm going to take anything from the race, it's going to be this moment. And when you do something this hard, when I do something this hard, I thought I had a pretty good idea of how difficult that race was going to be. And then you get there and you ease into it, feeling really good for the
Right.
first, beginning portion. But then again, there's a reason this race is on another level, and I truly believe that. And there was a moment. It's not like another 100 miler that I had done where 24 to 30 hours is kind of your window. I mean, I hit the halfway point at 24 hours, and the injury had occurred just before that. But I do want to talk about the moment where that little demon, I talked about him last time. He sits on your shoulder and says, "You can't do this. You're
Right.
not good enough." He showed up earlier than I thought, and usually I can, push him away. But if I'm being real, you got to go back and look at the moments where you weren't your best version, and these races will bring that person out of you. And I got to my crew at maybe mile. It was one of the last checkpoints before I took on another massive climb, which is where the injury finally progressed to a point where I couldn't keep going. But um, I literally I didn't know if I could do it. And you've heard Courtney Dauwalter, who I think is one of the greatest of all time in the sport, but she says, she calls it the pain cave and she looks forward to it. And the pain cave looks different for everybody. But there was a moment there where the injury wasn't a player, it was this.
Right.
And it hit me harder than I had ever been hit before. Now I knew it was coming, but when it actually got there, Jay, it was a new world. It was a new world for me.
Wow. Wow. Now, you hit this moment where you realize that something is not right. And ultra marathoners are built to push through pain. You're a Marine, you are, built to push through pain and all of these difficulties. Even as a man, we are brought up to just suck it up and keep pushing through as much as possible. How did you differentiate between, this is pain that I can push through versus this is something that could cause some real damage?
Yeah, so I'm gonna pick up where I don't even want to call it weakness, where the devil kind of laid his hand out, right? And then how that leads into where the injury actually occurred. And so uh, again, this race, the sun had started early in the morning. You're running. The day had gone very well. A lot of climbing in this race, and for those that remember, I think it's a little under 43,000 feet of elevation gain, vertical climbing. I mean, there are points where you're literally digging your poles into the ground and just like one step at a time, just trying to get up these. Well, they're not even hills; they're full-blown mountains, right? And I remember my fifth or sixth climb, and you have a lot of them, 14 maybe. I can't even remember. There was a point where the fear of the future, and maybe this is where your listeners will relate, is it's the fear of the future was actually what was really hitting me hard. You do all these things. I mean, at this point, I think before I had left my crew before the injury, which we're going to get into right now, I think I had climbed maybe 16,000 feet up to that point. I've got 40 something thousand to in total. You don't feel like you've even made a dent, and yet you're just kind of destroyed, right? Like your mind is tired, your body's fatigued, and you hit this point where it's like, oh my God, what is in front of me seems so big that I don't even know if I could do this, which is not something I say. That's not something that's in my head. And I was surrounded by a really incredible crew. And I wrote a post about this, which was very hard for me to do because I had to be very vulnerable. The crew believed in me in this very dark moment more than I believed in myself. We're probably 12, 15 hours into the race. I'm doubting myself. I'm a third of the way done, looking at this going, how am I going to finish this beast? This thing is just enormous. And I remember I walked into the aid station. I was not injured yet. And my crew said to me, "You're killing it." And I said, "This race is actually killing me. I'm not killing anything." And they're like, "What are you talking about? You're so far ahead of schedule. You're doing everything right." And I doubted myself, Jay. I doubted myself. And so the crew ultimately did what the crew's job is to do. And in these races, I mean, your mind is meant to keep you safe, right? So it's telling you, shut down. Like,
Right.
you've already done your workout. But they got me back on track, Jay. And I'm summarizing this because this was a very long moment. They got me back on track and reminded me, no, dude, you actually are good enough to be here. And that's the devil in the detail. I know I'm good enough. And I can't remember how I phrased this, but it's like, you're good enough, but yet doubt is still being casted upon you? How? How does that even eke its way in? And so when I got back on track, this is a very important moment. I looked at my crew and I said, let's go F and get this. Like, let's go do this. And I felt like nothing is going to stop me. And I remember I had about a 3,100-foot climb in front of me on the mountain that I feared, Richmond Pass. I'm sorry, Richmond Pass.
Okay.
I feared this pass, Jay. I have never feared a climb. We're not talking about Everest here, but this is a 3,100-foot climb, and I feared it because I knew when I climbed it, I was going to get to the halfway point down the road. Like I wasn't even there yet. And this thing, this behemoth, when you crest it, there's still snow on top of it, and you get to the base of it, and you're sitting with your crew, and all you can do is look up. My crew told me the best thing they could have said. It looked like the headlamps up there were stars. That's how high up this mountain was, and you
Wow.
got to go climb this thing, right? And I feared it, Jay. I feared it. So I'll pause for a moment, make sure you don't have any questions. But the next part is where the magic happens.
Well, we're going to come back to. I want to get to this magic. We're going to come back to, this moment of doubt and this moment of fear. And we talked the last time about, yeah, everyone's not an ultra marathon runner, but all of us deal with doubts and all of us deal with fears, and it's what we do next that really defines. But keep going, Tyler. Tell us about you're describing as when the magic happens. You've got me on the edge of my seat. I want to hear this.
Yeah, yeah, no, like I truly believe we are a culmination of the people that we surround ourselves with. And when I select my crews, I'm very fortunate to have one, a large number of folks that I can lean on that are willing to literally drive 6 hours, stay in the woods, camp, whatever to do this. And I had a phenomenal crew around me. And I mean, they were literally force feeding me food. They had water bottles kind of heated because your body can't regulate temperature when you're at this point of exhaustion.
Okay.
But I felt good. That's the thing. That's what was so difficult was I felt really good. I just was doubting myself, and that's such a new feeling. I'm usually pretty confident. Like I'm not saying I know I can do this, but I'm like, if I'm going to bet on somebody, I'm going to bet on myself first.
Right.
And then to have that come in where you're sitting there going, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't know if I can do this. And then to have them sit there in the corner and go, you've got enough time. You can sit here all night. Like the cutoff's in hours from now. So take as much time as you need, but you're going to go up that mountain. And finally to a point where it's like, we're going to go up that mountain. And it wasn't like, we're going to go up that mountain. It was like the crew goes, you're going up the mountain. So like however long you need, that's fine. But like everything's ready. So just get dressed and go. I will tell you, it was almost like the race reset for me at that point. And it
Okay.
was entirely, Jay, or maybe 99% based on the crew and their belief in me to get me through it, to help me believe in myself again, because this came so much quicker than I thought it was going to come. And I start climbing this mountain, and I think I'm the only person on the mountain. I really do. A lot of people had unfortunately fallen out of the race at this point. They had turned in that we have these spot trackers because it's a pretty rural race. So they turn them in, and once you turn it in, your race is over. And so I thought at this point, like, there's nobody else on this mountain. I look up, I see no other headlamps on this thing, and I'm like, all right, man, you've got another 36 hours to go, so buckle down. Your race just started again, and I felt like a champion. I start climbing this mountain. I get maybe 300 or 400 feet up, and I'm like, you know what? I need something I don't usually do. I need some. I call it, gangster rap, right? Like old school '90s rap. Like,
Nice.
I can get down with it, but I usually wouldn't do it on a run. And it was just different enough. And all of a sudden, Jay, you see one headlamp, two headlamps, bam, try to pass them. Two more headlamps, bam, try to pass them. I look at the summit, or what I think is the summit. It's pitch black, so you have no idea where you are. I dim my headlamp as low as it would go because you look up and it's just keep moving. And about halfway up the mountain, the climb, the pass, I start getting some tension in my calf. And these races, this just happens, right? Like pain just is an expectation. And I assume it's just a muscle that's just tired and that's fatigued. That's fine. And as the climb continues, I go faster and I'm going faster and faster and I'm seeing more people and I'm passing them and having good conversation. But like I've got a race to run now and I'm clawing back the monster I just kicked the ass of.
Right.
Now I got a point to prove to myself. Like you let it come in, but now it's gone. Now you got to go do this thing. Probably the strongest part of my race was right there. And I'm getting ready. I've got, like I said, this is a 3,100 foot climb. I'm nearing the 3,000 foot mark. I look at my watch. I know how much I have to go. And I'm like, God, something is not right with my calf. Like this really hurts. Get over, and then it's a pretty long descent, and it's basically a 5 or 6 mile descent. And there's two more aid stations up front. So on the descent, I'm not feeling my calf. I feel good. Body hurts. Mind is tired. It's 3 or 4 in the morning right now. Been going for a long time, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm going to test my calf again, get ready for this next big climb I got coming up. And it's like a 20 foot ascent. And all of a sudden I go to lift my foot up and I can barely raise my foot 6 inches. And I'm like, ugh, okay, like this is when you've got 23,000 feet more to climb, like this is going to be a problem. Get to the aid station, and I'll pause here in a second, but I get to the aid station. I ask the gal if there's a medic that can just take a quick look, and she goes, no. The next aid station there is, but she goes, are you okay? And I go, yeah, my calf's just giving me a problem. And she goes, listen, you have a climb here, 2 climbs down the road. If your calf blows up on that climb, it's a search and rescue call out every time. Do not underestimate it. And I'm like, okay, that's good. That's good information. Keep it in the back of my head and get to the next aid station. And that's where the decision unfolds. So I'll pause for a second before I go into that.
So
But
it was a calf issue that you were having. So, you know, let's was it anything major medically? You didn't have to have any sort of surgery or anything, did you?
no, so and we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit, right? But in the moment, I've never had a calf strain before, but I have had a strain before, and I recognize like this is probably going to be along those lines.
Okay.
Uh, in an event like this, I mean, everything just starts to hurt, right? Like, yeah, we talked about Stagecoach last time about my IT band, where it was like a 7 out of 10 the entire from mile 20 on. I was just at a pain level 7 out of 10. Literally could not run any longer because the pain was so intense. But you just find a way to get it done. And there's a big difference between pain and injury. I get to an aid station, I talk to a medic, and I basically ask him the joke. And at this point now, like I'm ready to go. The sun is
Right.
back up. It's, I don't know, 7 a.m. I'm ready to rip, Jay. And I go, do you have some magic ointment that fixes all my problems? Because I need it if you do. And he laughs and he goes, what answer do you want me to tell you? And I'm like, well, I want you to tell me the answer that says I'm not done. And he goes, yeah, I figured. He goes, listen, I don't have an MRI on me, but he's like, it's not looking good. I'm guessing calf strain, but he's like, obviously this is just in the field looking at it. And there's a hill behind him. It's our next climb. It's called Weehawken. And he's like, just go test it out up there. If you feel good, keep going. If you don't, call it, but don't go up the next pass because the next pass is a search and rescue call out. And he said the same thing. And so I go test it. And I've got a pacer now at this point. I got a good buddy of mine who finally just got a pacer, somebody to be with you. Like the next part of the race is here now. And I tell him like very clearly, we walk maybe 15 feet up. And I was like, dude, my race is done. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, my race is done. I don't know if this is me maturing as a runner or whatnot, but I go, whether I DNF at 54, which is where I was at this point, or I DNF at 64, nobody gives a, pardon my French. And in the raw heat of the moment, that's just what it was. Like nobody
Right.
cares. Nobody's
Right.
going to come back and say, Ty, man, you made it 64 miles. You're an animal. Like, no, dude, it's a DNF. You did not finish. And so I go now as a runner, I have to preserve. It's either if I think I can finish this race, I will keep going. But bluntly, my race is over.
Yeah.
And that was the moment.
I mean, how did you how did you process that mentally? You had been preparing for this race for a long time,
Almost a
and
year.
yeah, and now you are halfway into the race, a little more than halfway through the race, and you got to call it. What was going through your mind? What were you telling yourself then?
It's going to be okay. Um, I probably am more emotional about it now than was then. I mean, at that point, I had been awake. The race had been going on for almost 24 hours. I remember when I walked into that aid station, the course director, the guy who created this monster, is standing there, and he makes a comment to me. He goes, "You look really good," and I'm like, "I feel really good," but I didn't have the heart to tell him yet that I was about to probably pull the race. I
Right.
just wanted the compliment for a minute because he was observing in me what I now felt. And, he didn't obviously know the battle I had just gone through up here. And I mean, everybody does. I don't know anybody in that race that didn't have the battle at some point. But in that moment, I think it was the maturing as a runner. And there's a lot of life effects to this too, right? Maybe the 21-year-old version of me says, blow the calf up, I don't care. But like the almost 40-year-old version of me says, you know what? It wasn't your day. And
Yeah.
that's okay. I was really proud of how I came out of the rut that I was in. I was really proud about how I felt going into that aid station, which I didn't even know if I was going to make it to that. But you can't control the injury. And there was this little like notion in my head that kept saying, this failure is actually what you need. And it was really weird, Jay, because like literally an hour before that, I was hallucinating, which is also a wild story because I've never had that happen before. So I don't know if I was just delusional, but I kept telling myself, this failure is going to be the only way that you get to the next level. So you almost have to just call it now. And because my mind knew that I wouldn't call it, maybe it forced my body to. I mean, there's a lot of wishful thinking there, right? I'm
I
actually really grateful for it, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I want to lean in on something that you said there though, Tyler, because you keep using the word failure, and you know there are most people, including yours truly here, I'm not even contemplating doing something like that, let alone actually doing it. So, yes, you had a setback. You didn't finish. I personally am having a hard time thinking about it as a failure because everything that I'm hearing come out of your mouth is that you have learned something from this. You are going to evolve into a better runner, a better version of Tyler, how can that be a failure?
It that's a great, that is a wonderful point. I use the word failure so that I don't find myself hiding from the reality. Almost as sometimes when you go over the top with a response to make sure there's no delineation of what is real and what is not, I've
Right.
almost selected the word failure as to not run away from the fact that I didn't finish the race. But you are right. Probably one of the best failures that I wouldn't have done to myself. And quite frankly, one of the most grateful failures because of what has come out of what just took place.
I want to I want to talk about um, your crew. You've mentioned your crew several times. So how many people are in your crew, and who are some of these people? Feel free to mention names if you want to.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'd love to. Yeah, obviously, right out of the gate, my wife, crew queen, she runs the whole show. She actually puts more into these races than I do because she's got to keep everything fluid, right? You're running a 24 to 48-hour race. Well, your crew is there too, right? They're sleeping where they can, they're eating what they can, they're doing what they can. So my wife is the head crew. I've got good friends of mine, Greg. He's a lead man finisher, excellent athlete, a little bit younger than me, but wise beyond his years, and just an excellent resource. Another colleague of mine, Anna, she was one of my pacers. A good buddy of mine that I got my MBA with, Luke, joined, and then two late additions. And Luke's wife was there as well with their kiddo too, and he was keeping me honest. The sweet little guy he is. And then two late additions, which uh, kind of came out of nowhere professionally. A few months ago, she had reached out to me about some business dealings, and we had just ultimately just connected really well. And she ended up running her first ultra, and then I asked them to be a part of my crew, and they just, I mean, they just got married. Her fiance at the time though had never met me before. We get on a phone call. She's like, "I'm in," and his name is Jameson. Her name's Chelsea, and Jameson goes, "Yeah, man, I'm in." And I'm like, "You guys, you haven't even met me yet." And he's like, "Ah, this is the right adventure. Like, we're in." And he's a professional photographer too, and so he asked if he could document the whole thing, which is also really neat. So yeah, that's the group that helps keep this show on the road.
That's amazing. So here's where I'm going with this, Tyler, is that, all of us, whether we are running an ultra marathon or trying to manage a family, trying to run a business, whatever it is that we are doing, you mentioned the last time that you were on the show to define your hard and then go chase it. But you have to surround yourself with the right people. So, for example, with your crew, what I mean by the right people is you likely can't use me on your crew because I don't know what I'm doing. I can hand you some warm water, maybe, but you have to surround yourself with the right people that can help you accomplish what it is that you are trying to accomplish. So, talk a little bit about the importance for you and for anyone to make sure that you've got that right support system.
It's a really good point, and one of the biggest takeaways that I've always had. Somebody said, I do not own this quote. I actually need to find the actual quote, but I saw a video maybe a year ago, and it was an ultra runner, a seasoned ultra runner, talking about the races, and he said, 90% of these races are for the crew, 10% is for the runner. And it caused me to like pause and process what he meant by that. And it dawned on me, yeah, you're the one running, but if you're out there for 24 hours, they're going to see you for a combined amount of 15, 20 minutes,
Right.
right? And these people are willing to surround themselves with, I mean, every one of my crews, I'd have new people show up and never meet the rest of the crew, and they don't care. All barriers are broken down. And then all of a sudden, I come back and I hear all these funny stories that are happening in the background, and these relationships that are being formed and are not prospering. And it dawned on me like the race is the culmination. I run for those who can't, the
Yes.
Marines who lost their lives, and those who unfortunately didn't make their way home. And so they all kind of hold on to that. That's why they're showing up. One of the reasons they're showing up. And then in your darkest moment, because it's coming, You want to go find out what the darkest moment looks like, just sign up for an ultra. Like you'll find it. I promise you. It's there. I've never met anybody who's never found it. It is there. You will find your truest, rawest self because you cannot have a barrier when you're that exhausted.
Right.
And then for them to still accept who you are, and then to further promote your success through your own lens, whichever lens you have at that exact moment. And you take that to life, you surround yourself with those people professionally and personally, and tell me you're not going to be a better version in 1, 5, 10 years. I'm not buying it. I mean, that's who you're going to be, right?
Yeah.
Surround yourself with the best, you're going to be the best.
Right. That is that's truly amazing. So kudos to all of the people who supported you during this run. We touched on this a little bit because I pushed back on you a tad with that word failure, and I understand why you use that. Has this experience maybe changed your mindset about how you define success, failure, resilience, that type of thing? Because you've got an amazing story coming out of a did not finish that you're calling a failure. But I think that there are some successes around mindset and other things that are coming out of this as well. So what's your perspective? What's changed for you as it relates to success or failure or resilience?
Yeah, it dawned on me almost 24 hours after I pulled out of the race because 24 hours after the race, you're getting close to the cutoff time of when the race is ending. And it was not lost on me that I'm sitting in my Airbnb, feel like $1 million, quite frankly. Certainly ready to keep running, but I would say that the stairs would argue differently because the calf was definitely not going to have that. And I had this really nasty feeling in my gut. It was weird, the emotions that I went through. I had accepted it. We had talked about how well I had accepted it in the moment. But then when you walk off the course and you realize that a year's, well, in reality, all these races are all of your foundation built into it. So it's not just a 1 year cycle. It is, but it's also the 2 years you put in before that or the 10 years or whatever. And I did not like knowing that people were crossing the finish line and I wasn't even on the course.
Yeah.
That was really, really difficult for me. And to the point of where I didn't even, my wife was like, "Do you want to go to the finish line?" And typically I'm like, "Let's go root these people on." Absolutely. They're doing what I couldn't do. But for some reason, like, I wasn't there. I I could not put into words why I felt the way that I felt. It was almost like I felt guilty. Like I had
Mm-hmm.
really, really let those guys down, the 31 that I carry their photos, and I knew they would see that differently. But in my head, like maybe fatigued a little bit, just felt really guilty that I didn't do this. And so I decided to dig into that and process like, why do I feel like I'm not worthy of even being at the finish line? And that was what I think ultimately it boiled down to was I didn't get to the finish line, so I'm not worthy of being around the finish line. Really dramatic, maybe, but I'm a doer. I always try to see things through. And this is a scenario where I didn't get to do that.
Yeah.
And that was hard for me. And so I started processing, okay, what can we take away from this? How can we reverse this? Because this is not a road we need to be going down. We got to figure out what the other side looks like. And it hit me like a ton. I actually got in a phone call with my coach, like not even an hour after it hit me. And I mean, it knocked me out. And it was like, truly, if you can find a way to use this the moment before the injury, find a way to use that, I think you can go to the next level. And I really felt this. And I felt it so deeply. I called my coach. We had a great conversation, and he's a very, very successful coach. Um, he works with really impressive athletes across the world. And so I trust him deeply. And I told him, I said, I want to come back into the hornet's nest. And here's the risk, right? And I want to say this. There are two ways you could look at this, or at least the ways that I looked at this. I could go grab what I call an easy 100 miler, which they're not. They're not easy, but it's like one I know I'm going to complete.
Right.
Again, you say that loosely because you don't know
Yeah.
anything.
I'm
But
sort of shaking my head at the easy
yeah,
100 miler, but anyway, I get
totally.
what you're saying.
Yeah, go bag a race, whatever. It could be a 5K, a 1K, whatever. Go bag a race you're pretty certain you could do and crush it. right? Build that ego right back up again. But I told my coach, I said, unfortunately, that's not my personality style. I need to come right back into the hornet's nest. And here this Saturday is the OURAY 50. So it's the back half that I didn't get to do. The hill that I told you I was climbing to test that's the first big climb
Okay.
of this race. And I
Okay.
told my coach, I said, I won't speak about what others may or may not do because I don't know, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. The risk of failure for this race is just as high. It's difficult, very, very difficult. Um, but I can't look at myself in the mirror and say I had two options. One was go bag an easy race, or go back into the hornet's nest, risk failure again, and go see what you're made of. And if it doesn't work out, well, then you got more to work on.
Yeah.
But that's what we're doing. And I think that comes from failing, with the air quotes, believing in yourself enough to say, this doesn't get the best of me.
I love that so much, Tyler, because again, for my listeners, no matter where you are listening, if you are watching this on YouTube, thank you for taking the time to watch. Maybe hit the subscribe button and share this with somebody who may need to hear it. If you're listening on your favorite podcast provider, again, you've got millions of choices out there for a podcast to listen to. And thank you for choosing Just Human. There are a lot of people out there, Tyler, who are, again, they may not be running an ultra marathon, even if it's the easy ultra marathon, the easy 100. But there are a lot of people that are dealing with challenges daily. And there are people that are facing setbacks in whatever that they're dealing with. And I loved what you were talking about, the fact that, you know, go back to the moment right before the setback and think about where you were then and go back there. Go back to that point and focus on that. Don't focus on what may have tripped you up in that moment. In your case, it was an injury, but, let's focus on the reasons why you can and not the reasons why you cannot. And I am so inspired by the fact that you're going right back to the same race and getting to do the back half that you didn't get to see in July. So now you're going to get to experience that part of it. And just because it is half the distance doesn't mean that it's still not hard as heck.
No, no, and it's so funny. Like we use the air quotes with the easy ultra. Like there's no easy race. I have yet to run a race where I'm like, oh, that was. I'm sure there are people out there that can do that. I'm not one of them. So yeah, I say easy, but whatever. I didn't want to walk away from this, stroke my ego. Like I felt like my ego actually almost let me down. I hadn't failed in an ultra at this point. I hadn't failed in any race yet, ever. I don't know what that felt like, and I almost feel like I needed to learn how to, again, air quote, fail or just not succeed. And because I haven't experienced those emotions in this type of setting before, of course, there's things I've not succeeded in. But in this type of setting, that was a true DNF had never happened to me. But yeah, to your point, go back to the moment where you actually really struggled. Like attack the thing that you don't want to look at. Because I
Right.
didn't, right? Like I want to hide that. Like I don't want to talk about that. That sucked. I didn't love it. I didn't love who I was. I didn't love that I didn't believe in myself or any, all these negative things. But I have found, we talked about this last time, there is healing and vulnerability. And again, maybe somebody out there's listening and they just need a nudge. Because I think that's all I think most people need is a nudge. I think most people they've got it in there. They just need somebody to stand with them. And maybe I'm not that guy, but I sure like to think that if I can give one person a nudge to just say, dude, I don't know you, but I'm in your corner. I promise you, I'm in your corner. I think I ended my post where I was super vulnerable about this race. I said, by the way, if you're still reading this, know that I'm in your corner and I'll back you to the end of time. Call me. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Like I want to see people doing incredible things, but I think we get in our own way so much more than anybody else does. So go back to the moment where I really struggled, attack that and use that as fuel to remember. Now you do have this, but you got to go prove it now.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Tyler, so for the people who may not have watched or listened to the episode the last time, talk a little bit about why you run these races. You alluded to it a little bit earlier, but tell people why you do what you do.
Yeah. There's two real big reasons I do it. One, I think a lot of people can relate to this. I've got two younger kiddos, and I just want them to see, or my hope is that they see that you can do anything you put your mind to. These are challenging things, and I just want them to see the 3 a.m. wake ups as a normal thing. I don't ask them to do that, but I do. They do know that I wake up early to run. I want them to know that if you just want it bad enough, you'll find a way to get it done. But I think if you can see that happening throughout your childhood, it becomes part of your thinking.
Hmm.
The other reason is, I served with the Second Battalion, Third Marines, and we lost a lot of people that were killed in action in our deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. And one of the things I realized over the years that kind of led up to this, and this is all in summary, is what would these guys do if they had a second chance at life? They don't, right? We can't bring them back. But what would they do? What do I feel like they would be willing to have or suffer a little bit of pain to have a second shot at life? And I surmise that they would. And so I said, okay, what's the most painful thing I can do that is productive? Well, running. I used to run a lot, but let's see what else is out there. And so I got into the ultra marathons as a thought behind, I'm going to go carry a little bit of a torch for these guys. One, so they're never forgotten. And there's a lot of people making sure that they're not forgotten, but I want to do my part.
Yeah.
And then two, I want to carry my pocket because I don't want the Marine Corps to be the hardest thing I ever did. We got to keep pushing the bounds. And so having these guys in my pocket, it's real hard to say I'm tired, right? When when they would probably give anything to have another shot at what I had a shot at.
That's awesome. It's so powerful, and I didn't want to not mention that, not have you speak about that on this episode, because we talked about it before, because it is it's just so powerful. So just like we did the last time, a little bit more fun. So for my listeners, Tyler and I live in proximity to each other, and I'm driving home. I don't even remember where I was coming from, but I'm driving home and I happen to see what looks like Forrest Gump, you know, running up the road, not far from where we both live. So, Tyler, how many miles are you putting in on the daily as you're preparing for these races?
Yeah, it really just depends. I would say between 30 and 60 miles a week is pretty typical. Long runs, I did one last weekend. It was 20, almost 27 miles with 9,500 feet of climbing. We basically did Pikes Peak back and then ended on the Manitou Incline. So we got to see dark, sun, snow, and 80 degrees. But yeah, typically that 45 to 50 miles a week tends to be my sweet spot. That's where
Okay.
I tend to have a lot of growth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. I want to end on this. What words of encouragement do you have for, you know, people that may be facing, trying to figure out where their limits are and maybe dealing with a detour in their life right now, was they're pursuing their big goal, insert whatever that goal is, but that's what they're chasing right now. What are your words of encouragement for those folks that are, they're feeling the doubt you talked about earlier, the doubt that you were having early on in that race? What do you say to those individuals?
Yeah. First off, I congratulate them. If you're facing doubt, that means you're looking at a goal that a lot of people probably aren't even entertaining. And so I want to just congratulate you for being great enough to even contemplate a goal that is significant enough to where you don't think you can do it. Really, if you don't have a goal like that in your mind, then I think you're just kind of stalling yourself out. What I will say is good for you for looking at it. Don't let the thought of a potential failure stop you from pulling the trigger on it. Just go. I have yet to run into a scenario where at least trying to do something great, even if it didn't work out the way that I thought, ended up blowing up in a way that was negative. There's usually something you can take from it. And ultimately, it'll probably lead to a bigger goal down the road. And these could be life changing goals. I mean, this could be You could be looking at a professional change. You could be looking at maybe, again, a fitness goal of yours. Don't look at the mountain, proverbial or other, as a obstacle you can't overcome. Just look at it as something that may require a journey to get over. But
Right.
if you stay consistent enough and you take the first step, which is by far the hardest step, the likelihood of completing it is pretty high. So just take the first step. Because I promise you, step 135,000 is not harder than the first one. I promise you.
So you said step 135,000. I'm assuming that you, like other people, you've got some sort of tracker as to. So how many steps are you taking in a 100-mile race? Is that
I Yeah, I cannot remember what the last one was. I think it was just under 200,000.
wow?
Yeah, don't quote me. It was a big number. It was six figures for sure. I just cannot remember how many it
It
is.
it's making that 10,000 step goal that a lot of us have, including me, look like, really small potatoes. But you got to start somewhere.
Yep.
So this weekend, you're back up in Ouray. You're doing just a hair under 52 miles. Are you wearing the tracker again? Do I get to
Yep.
track you?
Yeah. I'll make sure you have that info. Yep. There will be a tracker. Same system. Yep.
Send me the link. I wanna keep track of it. I was on the boat and I was refreshing the last time, and I got a little concerned. I was hoping it was a technology issue, but then when I found out it was something else. But Tyler, I am really glad to have you back on the show and to talk about this. You've always got a powerful message for my listeners, and best of luck to you this weekend. I know you're going to knock it out of the park, man,
Thank you.
because you
Thank you.
just you got the heart of a lion, brother.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks again for having me, and let's go get it. No obstacle too
Absolutely.
big.
Yeah, I like that. Let's go get it. So, again, for my listeners, thank you for being here on Just Human. My guest is Tyler Herman, ultra marathon runner, and he's about to go get it. He's going after it this weekend and running just a little tiny 52-mile race with about 24,000 feet of elevation gain. So, Tyler, you go get it, and we'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Take care. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.